Okay, gentlemen, I think this might be the last class of the season for the reason that next Wednesday is my father's Arayat, so I'm going to be doing services in my house. Of course, I would love to see all of you if you can make it. Mincha is going to be at 7, followed by Derasha, then Arvit. But beforehand, we're going to be doing 2 hours of Torah study, Leilun Nishmat, my father. So anybody who can make it to the Arayat at 5 o'clock, or any time between 5 and 7, that would be Wednesday, exactly. That would be much appreciated. We're going to be studying Hilchot Nezirut, so there's that. All right, so tonight we're studying a Beraita of Rabbi Chia. There's something really interesting about the Beraita. I'm going to tell you in a minute. But I just want to re-plug you in because last week we studied the Sugya about Har Sinai. By the way, I think that's one of the most important Sugyot to study, to know, to review, to understand, because it contains within it one of the great principles of the of the Torah, of Judaism, and that is understanding what Ma'amad Har Sinai was all about. So, for those of you who didn't hear the class last week, please get onto my YouTube channel. I posted the class. Really a must. That's a class on Har Sinai. But tonight we're going back to Baba Mesia, and we had this Beraita that was formulated by the Bichia. It was a private Beraita. And the Beraita, and I'm going to just reintroduce it because I know we haven't studied that in about 2 weeks because we had the interruption of Shavuot. So I want to bring you into the Beraita. And it's as follows. A couple of laws. This is the way it works in the Jewish court, in the Bet Din, and it's always going to be like this. Always Reuven is going to be the plaintiff. It's going to be Reuven who is saying that Shimon owes him money. It's always going to be $100. He's always going to be owed $100. So Reuven always is coming into court. He says, Shimon owes me $100. That's the scenario. Okay. Shimon can say, I don't know anything. And if he says, I don't know anything, that's it. Kofer, bakol, patur. The Oraitai doesn't have to make a Shavua. That's it. The Oraitai can leave and say goodbye. And you look at the Reuven, you said, do you have any witnesses? No, I don't have any witnesses. Okay. Shimon, you sure you don't know him? No, I don't know him anything. I owe him $0. So the Oraita, he's patur mishavua. That's one law. Scenario number 2. Reuven comes into court, but this time he has 2 witnesses. He has 2 witnesses. We don't even ask Shimon what the situation is. We have the 2 witnesses. They say he owes him the money. Shimon, you have any anything to say? That's it. He has to pay. That's easy. Okay. Now let's deal with the 3rd situation. Reuven comes into court. He says Shimon owes him $100. Shimon says, I don't know anything. Reuven comes with a witness. Only one witness. Now we know according to Jewish law, al pi shenayim yadim yakum davar, you need to have 2 witnesses, but there's only one witness. The Oraita, one witness cannot take money, out of Shimon's hand. He can't compel Shimon to pay. But because Reuven has a witness, that witness can compel Shimon to make a shavua. He has to make a shavua. You understand? So that's the next situation. The next situation is, again, he comes in with only one witness, and the witness says, I know for a fact that Shimon owes him $100 or whatever it is. I know for a fact that Shimon owes him $100 or Shimon owes him $50, whatever it is. He has to make a Shavuah. Now the Dayanim are going to go to Shimon and say, we'll make a Shavuah, bring out the Sefer Torah, and let's make a Shavuah now. Okay, you willing to make a Shavuah? Okay. Another situation. Let's say Shimon says, I don't owe him $100. I owe him 50. In this case, he has to pay the 50, of course. But since he's modeh b'miksat ta'ana, since he admits part of the liability, he has to make a shavua with respect to the remaining liability. There you go, perfect. You'll remember. That's great. I'm going to give you the final scenario, and then and this is what the Rabbi Chia is saying. The Rabbi Chia makes a very interesting point. He says, look, if Reuven were to come in with 2 witnesses, and the 2 witnesses say he owes $100, he would have to pay $100. Okay, 2 witnesses. If 2 witnesses come and say he owes $50, why don't we give that the force of Shimon admitting that he owes $50? Which is to say, if Shimon admits, I owe $50, I don't owe 100, but I do owe 50, we're going to make Shimon make a Shavuah with respect to the remainder. Again, Modeh b'miksat ta'ana chayav b'shva. No witnesses. Let's say, meaning, in the case, right, I'm talking about two witnesses, but the logic is as follows. The logic is, and this is what Rabbi Chiya is saying. Rabbi Chiya is saying, two witnesses come to court, and the two witnesses say that Shimon owes $50. Shouldn't Shimon have to make a Shavuah with respect to the remaining $50? No. Well, that's what he's saying. And the logic is as follows. If Shimon himself would have said, I owe $50, we say, okay, no problem, pay the 50, make a Shavuah for the remaining 50. So if two witnesses come and say he owes $50, how much more so? Kal v'chomer, that, okay, pay the 50 and make a Shavuah with respect to the remaining 50. That was the logic. And you remember the back and forth and the Kal v'chomer. Eventually, we reject the Kal v'chomer. Eventually, the reasoning was rejected for the and let's see if anybody remembers, why did we reject the Kal v'chomer?
It's not a true Kal v'chomer. No,
why?
Because one person could make himself to a korban tamid, right?
Okay, no, after that. That's great that you remember that, but yeah, eventually we resolved that. There was something else. Hachasha ubhazama. And what Mikey just said is, it's not a real Kal v'chomer. It's not a real Kal v'chomer, it's a deceptive Kal v'chomer. It appears that two witnesses is a much stricter situation than a person admitting guilt, right? It's not. Two witnesses can be rebutted if another two witnesses come and, for example, they say, no, he doesn't owe the money. Or they say, how do you know that he owes the money? Oh, we were there. Oh, where were you exactly? We were there when the Reuven gave Shimon the money. He made him alone. We were there. When did that happen? It happened in Jerusalem on October 1st. We saw you in this hotel in Los Cabos, Mexico. What are you talking about? You cannot have possibly been. What?
No credibility.
So you cannot have been there. Now, so two witnesses, the testimony of two witnesses can be rebutted by another two witnesses. The admission of a defendant that he owes money cannot be rebutted.
That's right.
And that's why the logic of Rabbi Chiya is rejected by the Gemara. That Kal v'chomer is not a Kal v'chomer. Read the. Yeah.
What if he actually owes him 100 but only admits to 50?
Right, so we said that in that case, that's called modeh b'miksat hatana. He admits part of the liability, and in that case, he has to make a Shavuah for the remaining. He obviously pays the 50, and then he has to make a Shavuah with respect to the remaining 50. So read the top of the page. I just want to read the Beratav Rebbe because there's a very interesting chidush here. And I want to show you the chidush. This is a big machloket between, let's say, Chachmei Andalusia, Harambam, and the Chachamim from that part of the world in that time, in that period of history, and some of the Chachamim, Chachmet Tzolfat and Ashkenaz. There's a very interesting machloket I want to bring to your attention. But first, read Tane Rabbi Chiya. You see the top of the page? Tane Rabbi Chiya. This is the Baraita. Okay. Maneli biyadecha. Reuven says, you owe me $100. Maneh is 100 dinarim. Vehala omer. And Shimon says, no. En lecha biadi kelum. I don't owe you a cent. Reuven says, really? You don't owe me a cent? I have two witnesses. They come in. They say, well, look, we don't know about 100. We know about 50. Everybody agrees that Shimon has to pay Reuven 50. But according to the Bichiyah, the Chidush of the Bichiyah is that now Shimon has to make a Shavuah with respect to the remaining 50. Why? And this is the Kal v'chomer that we already rejected. The Bichiyah is giving his own Kal v'chomer. It can't be that his admission has more strength. Obviously, as a matter of fortiori reasoning, his testimony cannot be more powerful than the testimony. His admission cannot be more powerful than the testimony of two witnesses. Mikal v'chomer. So how does the Bichiyah substantiate his position? He has a halacha, and he derives a halacha from a Kal v'chomer. We rejected the Kal v'chomer. Yes.
What about Gilgul Shavuah?
We're going to be dealing with that soon. Actually, that's one of the things we're going to be studying tonight, but not yet.
Yoni's advanced.
Not yet. But you see how we rejected the Kal v'chomer of Rabbi Chiya? So if you rejected the Kal v'chomer, that's it. The law's over. You're telling me I believe that as a matter of Kal v'chomer, the admission of two witnesses compel the admission of, the testimony of two witnesses should compel the defendant to make a shivua. If his own admission would compel him to make a shivua, the testimony of two witnesses should compel him to make a shivua. Kal v'chomer. I said, no, it's not a kal v'chomer. Okay, so you're wrong. So that's not the law. So this is one of the great machlokot, and my father wrote about this extensively in many of his writings, that according, so what came first, the chicken or the egg? Okay. What comes first? Is it the derasha that is used to derive the law? So I have a pasuk, and I make a derasha on the pasuk, and I derive whatever the law is. In this case, two witnesses should be able to compel him to make a shavua. Or is it that I already had the law, perhaps by tradition, perhaps I had a masoret, and now I want to connect the law through derasha to one of the pesukim? You understand the question? What comes first? Machloket. French rabbis versus Chachmei Andalusia. The French rabbis, according to them, and also Ramban, actually, I don't like Chachmei Andalusia, I want to be clear, many of the Sephardim, but that was from northern Spain, the area of Castilla northward, Catalonia. So, according to many of the Chachamim, including some of the Chachamim in northern Spain, prominent among them is Ramban with the Nun, Rabbi Moshe bar Nachman. They say that the derashot themselves are deoraita, meaning the derivation of a law through the derasha is an actual derivation, and it has a status of deoraita. So if you reject the derasha, that's it. You reject the law. That means it's not a real derasha. You understand the point?
So an example.
This is a great example, isn't it? That's the point. Now, according to Harambam and many of the Chachmei Andalusia, no. And Harambam writes about this in the Hakdamat Perush Mishnayot. He says that the Chachamim had a masoret, we had a tradition. Let's say some of the traditions were from Moshe Rabbeinu, right? I'll give you an example. We knew from Moshe Rabbeinu that when the Torah says in Parashat Emor, Peri Ais Hadar, Peri Ais, a fruit from a beautiful tree, right? Hod behadar pa'olo, hadar means beauty. What is this fruit? We knew it was a throne. We had a tradition from Moshe Rabbeinu. Now the Gemara in Masechet Sukkah, it says, how do we know it's peri es hadar? So they make a darasha on the pasuk. The word hadar also means to live, ladur. So it says peri shedar ala etz mishana lishana, because the etrog, it stays on the tree for many years. It's not like other fruits where it comes out of the tree and then eventually it falls and dies. So they made a darasha. According to Harambam and Chachmei Andalusia, that derasha is after the fact. Meaning, they had the tradition from Moshe Rabbeinu. And then the Chachamim said, let's look at the pasuk. Oftentimes, Moshe Rabbeinu would perhaps leave a hint in the pasuk, perhaps not, but it was the way of developing the law by connecting the laws that we received, the Torah shebe'al peh, with the Torah shebichtav, right? That was a function of the derashot.
Almost like an asmachta, just for like...
Right, so there's different types of derashot. There's different levels of derashot. The Smachta is a very low level. He also had Ramban with the Nun agrees. He has what's called a Smachta be'ama. There are many derashot which Ramban and Chachmei Tzorfat, they say it's not really a derasha. They are. But according to Harambam, the derashot themselves are not the oraita. And therefore, if you reject the derasha, you can still be left with the law. The law was Kabbalah. Maybe he had a masoret, and he said the masoret should be like this, and I'll prove it to you. How do I know it? Mikal v'chomer. But if you reject the Kal v'chomer, you're not going to reject the masoret. The masoret has its own authority. You have a tradition. Rabbi Yochai had a tradition from his teacher that this is the law, that two witnesses should be able to compel a shevu'ah. And then he connected it with the, he made a kal v'chomer. So the kal v'chomer is after the fact. So you see how this sugya, it touches upon that machloket between Chachmei Tzorfat and Chachmei Andalusia. It's a very interesting machloket, by the way. And there's a lot of nafkamina halacha le'ma'aseh. If you say that derasha is deoraita, many questions and many sugyot in the Tosafot that deal with this very issue. Okay, I wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay, so that's important. Let's now that we rejected this kal v'chomer, we're going to go now to the next page, and let me find it for you here because wow, these are small letters. All right, Tomar ve'edim. Okay, so you see the third full paragraph, the word tomar?
Third paragraph?
Yeah, the third tomar. The first one is tomar.
Yeah.
Let's count.
Yep.
All right. count up 2 lines. 1, 2, ella.
Ela.
You see the word ella?
Yeah.
Right, so 2 right here. If you go to the second line,
Oh, okay.
Go up.
Got it.
ella, ella, go up 2 lines, right? Ella. First word. All right, so let us now, the yeshiva said, if the Bichiya's Kal Vachomer doesn't work, we're going to find the Kal Vachomer for this law. Right? You understand? That's what the yeshiva is doing now. Ella means we reject, the word Ella means we reject the previous, meaning we reject the Kal Vachomer of the Bichiya. By the way, many of you are probably wondering, why is this chessboard here? It's here because it's going to explain something very profound about the Sugya. So for now, the chessboard is here, and we will get to the chessboard later. Okay, but let's get now to the Sugya. What? Okay. Ella. We are going to give a new derasha. Atya me'ed echad. Here is, yes.
Where are we?
Yes, if you look, you see the first word on the third paragraph, tomat. Go 2 lines above that, and you have the word ella. You see the word ella?
What does it mean, Ella?
Ella means we reject the previous, and now we're going to propose a new derasha. We're going to propose a new kal vachomer. Ella, and let me just get my papers, if I even have them. Ella, atya me'ed echad. We can make a different kal vachomer. You remember the law of ed echad? That if Reuven, the plaintiff, comes in with 1 witness, that 1 witness can compel the defendant to make a shavuah. So we'll make the following kal vachomer. If 1 witness who doesn't have the strength to compel Shimon, the defendant, to pay, and yet he can compel Shimon to make a shavuah. You remember, if Reuven comes in with a single witness, remember that law? The witness can compel him to make a shavuah, not to pay. Edim, if 2 witnesses that have the strength to compel him to pay, and how much more so that they should be able to force Shimon to make a shavuah. That's the kal vachomer. The kal vachomer, again, is predicated upon the fact that 2 witnesses, of course, are stronger than 1 witness. And if 1 witness
Makes you swear.
makes him swear,
2 for sure.
then 2 for sure, right? Ma le'ed echad, this kal vachomer is also rejected very quickly. Ma le'ed echad sheken al ma shehu me'id hu nishba tomar be'edim she'al ma shekafar hu nishba. He says like this. You're confusing matters. Ed echad, what does the ed echad make him swear about? What is the shavuah about? Again, the Reuven comes in, and the ayat says, I say you owe 100. So what is he going to make a shavuah about? He's going to say, no, I don't owe 100, right? If he's willing to make the shavuah. The Aidim, what did they say? They said he owed 50. Mm-hmm. He has to pay the 50. They didn't say anything about the other 50, right? Mm-hmm. So you're making, according to this law of 2 witnesses, you're forcing the defendant to make a shavuah about an amount of money that the witnesses didn't say anything about. The 2 witnesses never said he owes 50.
Yeah, right.
Right? Or rather, he owes 50, that 50 he pays, the remaining 50 they didn't say anything about. Right? Now when the Ed Echad comes, when the 1 witness comes in, let's look at it this way. 1 witness comes in and says, you owe 50, not 100. He has to make a shavuah about the 50. He doesn't make a shavuah about the entire 100. You only make a shavuah about what the Ed testified. You don't make a shavuah about the remaining portion of the money.
It's not the same.
So there's no kal vachomer, right? Again, I'm going to read it again. Ma le'ed echad. How can you compare 1 witness? Sheken al ma shehu me'id hu nishba. We're compelling Shimon, the defendant, to make a shavuah that is directly in opposition to what the witness testified. It's on point. Tomar be'edim, you're going to say that when the 2 witnesses come and they say he owes 50 and he pays the 50. Now the other 50 make a shavuah. Why? The 2 witnesses didn't say anything about the 50, the remaining 50, right? So that kal vachomer is rejected. Next kal vachomer. Soon we're going to get to the chessboard. We're about 5 minutes away from chess for now. Right. Yoni spoke about Gilgul Shavuah. Ella Amara Papa. But this sugya apparently is in Fombedita, Yeshiva Fombedita. The Papa was one of the Rashi Yeshiva, although he wasn't specifically in Fombedita itself, but in his days, the Yeshiva Fombedita was with him. So Ella Amara Papa. Now it says Ateh. Now you see the word Ateh?
We're on the third paragraph, right? Tomal Beidin.
Yeah, Ella Amara Papa.
Tomal Beidin.
Yeah, Tomal Benish Hamash Gafaru Nishba. Right then, Ella Amara Papa. Atemi Gilgul Shavuah. Now previously it said Ella Atiyah Me'edechad. I said, what is it on Papa saying Ateh? Atiyah, Ateh. What is that? I checked the Kitveyad, I checked the ancient manuscripts. The Ateh had like a apostrophe above it. Ateh was a shortened for Atiyah. So it's also Atiyah. Ella Amara Papa Atiyah. And you're going to see this is important to understanding the sugya in a moment. We will learn the Kal Vachomer from Gilgul Shavuah de'edechad. We have a law of Gilgul Shavuah. By the way, I once asked somebody, I had a machloket regarding, I said that the Gemara does not mention Gilgul. So Gilgul means reincarnation. So I said the Gemara doesn't mention a word about it. So he said, no, it does. I said, where? He brought it here. I said, Gilgul is not talking about reincarnation here. It's talking about something else. Let me tell you what the word Gilgul means. This has nothing to do with reincarnation. What?
Rolling over debt.
Yeah, no. It means rolling over. You are correct, but not rolling over the debt. Here's the law. Let's say I bring somebody to court, right? And I say that person, I say Shimon owes me $100. Shimon says, actually I owe you $50. Okay, pay me the 50, make a Shavua on the remaining 50. You're willing to make a Shavua? Okay, make a Shavua, no problem. Now, an oath, right? An oath that I paid him the money I owe him, and the remaining 50 I don't owe him. He has to make a Shavua with respect to the remaining 50, correct? Now, $50, 50 dirarim. So now, there's a special law of Gilgul Shiva. Gilgul Shiva means the minute I get a defendant to make a Shavua in court, I can make him, I can roll over Shavuot to other areas where normally I would not have been able to do it. For example, I say, didn't you sell me your land 2 years ago? Didn't you sell me your farm for $1,000? You're still on the farm. Now, I have no evidence. I have no witnesses. It's a meaningless testimony. If I came to court and I said, the farm is mine, no judge in his right mind will give me the farm. Give me evidence. You have a shetar, you have something, you have witnesses, no witnesses. Now I can go take him to court and say, you know what? I'd like you to make a shavua about the farm as well. Gilgul shavua.
Continuation.
Right, continuation. Roll over. From one shavua, I'm going to roll over to another. And I say, you know what? I remember you owed me money and you once sold yourself as a slave. So I'm not a slave. Okay, no problem. Make a shavua about that also. I can do all the shavua down, all the various things that he owes me, for which I couldn't compel a shavua, through the mechanism of Gilgul Sheva. Once you're obligated to make one Sheva, a defendant is obligated to make one Sheva, we can roll over any claim. The same plaintiff, not somebody else, can roll over one claim after another, and get all his money back or everything he's owed back. Because he might make a Sheva, or he might decide, I don't want to die, I kind of value my life, take the farm, and thank you very much. So he'll either make the Sheva or not make a Sheva. So the reasoning of Rav Papa is as follows. Let's read it again. Ella, what does the word Ella mean again? We reject the previous Kal Vachomer, and we are now going to propose a new Kal Vachomer. Ella, Amar Rav Papa, Atiyah. Again, it's Atiyah. And again, I checked the manuscripts. So the manuscripts all say Atiyah. Atiyah, we can derive the Kal Vachomer, Migilgul. Atiyah means we will derive. Derive what? Derive the Kal Vachomer, right? Ella, Amar Rav Papa, Atiyah, Migilgul Shevuah de'edechad. One witness who comes with the plaintiff. Reuven brings in one witness, and one witness says, you owe him money. That one witness, I can compel him to make a Shevuah about other things for which the witness didn't testify. So if one witness can compel him to make Shavuot not just on what the witness testified, but on other things that the witness didn't testify. How about these two witnesses that come in and say, you owe him 50, let's cause him to make a shivu'ah for the remaining 50, right? That's the kavachomer that Rav Papa is proposing. So I'm reading it again. Let's make a kavachomer from gilgul shivu'ah of one witness. One witness can compel him to make a shivu'ah on the money that the witness says he owes, and then he can compel him to make a shivu'ah on other matters for which the witness didn't testify. Ma legilgul shivu'ah de'adechad sheken shivu'ah goreret shivu'ah tomar be'edim demamon kamechayeveh. They say no. In the case of Gilgul Shavu'ah, there is an initial Shavu'ah. That one witness can compel him to make a Shavu'ah about what the witness testified. Once you break that threshold, once you get to the threshold where he has to make a Shavu'ah, okay, we'll make him make Shavuot about other things for which the witness didn't testify. But here in the case of Rabbi Chiya, where you have these two witnesses, and you want to compel the defendant to make a shivu'ah regarding a matter which the witnesses didn't talk about, there is no threshold, there is no initial shivu'ah which would cause other shivu'ot. And therefore, this kal vachomer is also rejected.
It's over the foul limit.
Right? I'm sorry?
But what's over the foul limit?
The point is, it's true that once he made one shivu'ah, then we can make many, many shivu'ot about matters for which the witness didn't testify about. But here, when the two witnesses come and they say he owes 50, not 100, they never testified about the remaining 50, and there is no initial shivu'ah that would allow us to now to say, oh, make another shivu'ah. Why should you make another shivu'ah? There was no first shivu'ah in the first place, right?
So one witness, you can have a rollover.
One witness you can, right. So one witness can compel him to make a shivu'ah, and once he compels him to make the initial shivu'ah, then we can roll over to many, many matters. But here, the two witnesses, there is no rule that they can compel them to make that initial shivu'ah. So there's no rollover rule either, right? So this kal vachomer is rejected. All right.
All right?
Yes, sir.
If there's no witness and he admits 50 out of the 100,
Yes.
once he swears, he could also...
Yes, correct. Once, meaning the gilgul shivu'ah could also be by his own shivu'ah, meaning he admitted partial liability. He's going to make a shivu'ah. He said, oh, you're making a shivu'ah. That's great. You know what? You sold yourself as a slave and you never redeemed yourself. You're worth $1,000. Give me $1,000 for your value as well. So what are you talking about? He says, make a shivu'ah then, please. He can compel him to make another shivu'ah. Correct.
Shavuot Vadai?
What?
Shavuot Vadai?
Shivu'ah, yeah. When you say Shavuot Vadai, it means shivu'ah and Sefer Torah. So once you have the Gilgul Shivu'ah, he's going to be holding the Sefer Torah. I swear about this, and I swear about this, and I swear about this. Yeah. In the case of Talmidei Chachamim, they allow Talmidei Chachamim to make the shivu'ah on tefillin, right? But generally speaking, the shivu'ah was done on the Sefer Torah. If it was a shivu'ah mehat Torah, as the cases we're describing are shivu'ah mehat Torah. All right. So finally, we get to the final derivation, and this derivation is going to be accepted. This derivation will be questioned eventually, but it's going to be accepted. And I want to tell you what this is. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read this for you. I didn't see anybody who, again, I say this with humility. Now, maybe I just didn't look enough. What we're about to read is apparently just repetitious. It looks like it's just repeating the same thing that we already did. But it's not. And there's a key word. The key word is atiyah. Whenever we brought a new kal vachomer, we always said, ella atiyah, let's bring the following. Ella atiyah, let's bring the following. Here it's not going to say that, and I'm going to tell you what's happening here. It's all going to be very clear, and I actually love this. This is one of my favorite things. Because, there's 13, so according to Hillel, there's 7, there's 7 midot she'atorah nidreshet b'hem. That's Hillel HaZaken. Rabbi Ishmael says no, ב-13 midot haTorah nidreshet. Right? We say that in the Korbanot. Rabbi Yosef HaGalili says no, there's 32 mechanisms to make derashot. 32 midot shatorah shabayim. So one of the midot of Rabbi Yishmael is binyan av. Binyan literally means a building, to build. Av means a father. So there's a binyan that comes from a father. What does that mean, binyan av? I'm going to explain that in a moment. But what we're dealing here with is a binyan av. And without that information that I just gave you, you can't understand what's going on in the Gemara. So let me just read the Gemara for you. And it's going to sound like it's repetitious, but then I'm going to explain to you how it's not. Piv yochiach. They say, okay, so you rejected the Kal Vachomer of Rav Papa. Let's go back to Piv. Let's go back to his own admission. Namely, if his admission is strong enough to compel him to make a Shavua, how much more so the testimony of two witnesses should compel him to make a Shavua. Wait, hold on. Didn't we already say that before? And didn't we reject that? Why is the Gemara doing this again? Okay, Piv Yochiach. What is Piv Yochiach? It doesn't say Atyami Piv. It says Piv Yochiach. We will prove from his testimony. What's the answer to that? Malefiv. Sheken eno bechasha. We already said that you cannot derive this law from his admission, because his admission cannot be rebutted, whereas the testimony of two witnesses can be rebutted. Okay, let's continue. Okay, let's learn it from one witness. The same way one witness can compel him to make a shavua, of course two witnesses should be able to compel him to make a shavua. Hey, didn't we just reject that a moment ago? They're going to reject it again. Okay, I'll explain it, don't worry. It seems like it's repetitious. We're just repeating the same thing. So let's learn it from one witness, because one witness the testimony of one witness can indeed be rebutted, right? And yet can compel him to make a shavua. How much more so that the testimony of two witnesses should be able to compel him to make a shavua. We know what the rejection is. The rejection is, why are you bringing me one witness? Because when the one witness compels him to make a shavua, he's compelling him to make a shavua about the same thing that the one witness testified about. And you're telling me that in the case of two witnesses, you should make a shavua not about what the two witnesses testified about. Piv yochiach. So they say, okay, so we should learn it from his admission. Wait, what are you talking about? You just said a second ago we can't learn it from his admission. The Hazar Adin. Hazar Adin literally means we're going in circles. Okay, let me tell you what's happening here, and I will explain it to you. I think I brought a diagram as well, just so you can see it. Did I bring it? Did I bring it? Yes, I have a diagram. Okay, I'll explain this. So first of all, does anybody here play chess? Any chess players? Mark? Oh, you play chess? Oh. So, there's different, sometimes you have a check, you have checkmate, you have stalemate. What's that thing called when you repeat something in chess? There's a particular terminology in chess. It's called threefold repetition. Let me show you what threefold repetition is, okay? So threefold repetition is that when you go back and forth 3 times, it leads to a draw. Okay, let me show you this thing. Is the camera? You can perhaps aim the camera on this. So the problem here is, now let's say it's the white's turn. Now the white wants to somehow get to the pawns. The black pawns maybe jump one of the pawns, because the only way it could break out of this particular thing, none of the pawns can move right now. So either the white king will jump one of the black pawns, or the black king will jump one of the white pawns, right? So this king wants to go forward. He wants to go forward so he can position himself to either go this way eventually, or maybe go that way, but then this way is going to be really hard. He's going to have to go like this, all the way down here. That's tough. He's going to try to go here somehow, and then maybe reach that one. So the next move, he's going to go here. Now this king, the black king, knows what the white king is doing. He's going to block his way. He's going to go here. Okay. He doesn't want to lose his position. The only way to break out of this is, again, to go to one of the pawns. So he's going to go here. At this point, the black king doesn't want to retreat. He's going to go back here. So the king is going to go back here. That's the second time this is happening. Second time this is happening. No other viable moves. These are the only viable moves which will allow the white king right now is taking the initiative, to somehow break free. So again, here, here, third time. This is called a threefold repetition. If you were in a chess competition at this point, it would be declared a draw and would be the end of a game. Okay, the Gemara uses the mechanism of threefold repetition in the case of derashot to build up to a particular crescendo. In the case of chess, the game is over. That's it, game over. In the case of the Gemara uses this to propose a completely new theme, and I'm going to show you what the new theme is in this case, and I'm going to explain to you what binyan av is. Yeah.
Don't we have in the Gemara Tekel when there's a draw?
There is. You also have tekel. You do. You have tekel, which is a draw. Exactly. Let me explain to you what binyan av is. I want to explain to you how binyan av works. Okay. Binyan av is as I said, one of the 13 rules she'atorah nidreshet bahem. Okay. I thought I had it summarized here, but okay. What's a good example? Okay. And okay, here's a good example. The Torah says, in Parashat Naso actually, right? It says, give me the Chumash. Let me read the pasuk. Vishalechu min hamachane. Oh, here we have actually. Vishalechu min hamachane kol saro v'chozav v'chol tamei lanavesh. Right? But before it says that pasuk. Parashat Naso, right? Yeah. Okay, here it is. I have it. Thank you, nevertheless. It says, and it starts with the word sav. Okay, let me read to you the pasuk. So this is before the laws of Sotah. Yeah. Okay. The pasuk says sav et bnei Israel. That's what I was looking for. Sav et bnei Israel. It uses the word sav. It doesn't always say sav in the Torah. It usually says by the Ber Adonai Moshe Lemor, Daber bnei Israel v'notanem asolem sisit. Here it says sav. It says sav et bnei Israel. Why does it say sav? Interesting. Okay. Then if you go to Parashat Beha'alotecha, let's look at the beginning of Parashat Beha'alotecha.
And it means command, right?
Sav literally means to instruct. Instruct the Jewish people. They should send out the impure people from the Machane because the Machane was Kadosh. The Shekinah was there. You can't have the Shekinah in a place of Tum'ah. Then, if you go to Parashat, this is in Vayikra, in Parashat Emor. I'm going to read you the pasuk. So you remember that. It says Sav, and then it says instruct them to remove the Temeim, right? One moment. Right. Okay. Second. Okay. It says now in Parashat Emor, it says Savet b'nei Israel. Again, the same word. Savet b'nei Israel. V'ikhu elecha shemen zayit zach katit la'ma'or. The Jewish people should be instructed to bring the oil, the olive oil, for the menorah lehanot ner tamid, to light the ner tamid. Now, in both these cases, in the case of Parashat Naso, it says Vayishalechu min hamachane kol saro v'chozav. It says immediately they did it. In the case of Aharon, it says in Parashat Ba'alotecha that Aharon lit the candle. So the Hachamim say, what do these two laws have in common? In the case of the Temeim, that you have to get the Temeim out of the Machaneh, it's le'sha'ata u'ldorot. It's a law that is done immediately, but it's a law that lasts forever. They have to do it also in the future. So in the future, when the Bet HaMikdash is built, we're going to send out from the Bet HaMikdash the Temeim, and we're going to send out from Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim has the status of Kedusha. We're going to send them from Jerusalem. We're going to send them from the Bet HaMikdash. So the law of Sav occurs when it's a law that was done immediately in the desert, and the law is going to be done forever in the future, right? In the case of lighting the menorah, immediately Aharon lit the menorah, and the lighting of the menorah is also in the future, right? So you see the word sav. So binyan av means as follows. We're going to take two bricks. One brick is sav v'shalachu min hamachaneh. Send out the impure people from the Jewish encampment. The second sav is light the menorah. What do these two laws have in common? Apparently absolutely nothing, but they do have one thing in common. What is it? Sav. That's called a sav l'shaveh. So the one thing they have in common, we're going to now put on these two bricks. We have one brick, we have the other brick, and we're going to have the third brick. What joins these two things? Sav, the word sav. So where else do you have the word sav? In Parashat Naso. Sav et Aaron v'banam le'mol kotev echo b'nei Yisrael emor lehem. The Birkat Kohanim. The same way that the lighting of the menorah was immediately and forever, and the same way that the sending of the Temeim was immediately and forever, the Birkat Kohanim was done immediately and is done ledorot. Even though the pasuk doesn't say so in the case of Birkat Kohanim, but that's Binyan Av. So you see, Binyan Av is based upon 2 bricks, right? And we say, what do these 2 things have in common? And the Binyan, we're going to build a 3rd thing. Anytime you see the word Sav, Binyan Av, that it's Lesha'ata Uldorot. It was an immediate law, and it was a law that was done for future generations. That's what's happening here. Now that we know what Binyan Av is, I'm going to read to you the law, the Hazar Hadin. You all have the place, the Hazar Hadin. That's what we got up to. Yeah. The Hazar Hadin. Hazar Hadin means draw, or it's a 3-fold repetition. That's it. End of that thing. Lo re'izeh kere'izeh. What comes from the law, re'i literally means, how do you say pregnant in Hebrew? Herayon, right? Herayon means pregnant. Re'i means that which comes out, right, from the law of one witness is not like that which comes out from the law of a person who makes an admission. Velo re'izeh kere'izeh. But they have a sada shaveh. They have something in common. What do they have in common? Hasad hashaveh shebahem she'alidei ta'ana kfira hen ba'in. What they have in common, if you have the 1 brick, the testimony of 1 witness. 2nd brick, admission of the defendant, right? What do they have in common? She'alidei ta'ana kfira hen ba'in. They have in common the following. There was a claim by a plaintiff. There was a kefirah. There was a rejection of the claim by the defendant. Benishba. And there is a shevuah. Both of these things have in common claim, rejection, and what is the law in both cases? Shevuah. Afani avi. So anytime I have a situation where there is a ta'ana and there is a kefirah, benishba, there should be a shevuah. That is the binyan av that is being proposed to defend the law of Rabbi Chia. Again, you have the law of Edechad. Edechad is the law that 1 witness can compel him to make a shevuah. There was a ta'ana, a claim, there was a kefirah, there was a rejection of the claim, and we know there was a shevuah. We have the law of the admission of the defendant. There was a claim, a rejection of the claim, and there was a shevuah. So from here, we are going to create a binyan av. Anytime we have a ta'ana and a kefirah, there should be a shevuah. That is the final justification for the bichiyah. This justification, or this derasha for the bichiyah, is not going to be rejected. There will be questioned, but it will ultimately will not be rejected. So we're going to stop here because we said a lot, and I hope this chessboard was given to me by my father, Alav Shalom. It's from Barcelona. It's an antique piece, many years old. But I thought it would be a good thing to show you because it's always nice to see that there was a certain wisdom in the Gemara, and people sometimes they question what's going on here. It's repeating. Chess is probably the deepest game, at least that I know of, that humanity has ever invented, and it has the same idea that was exhibited in the Gemara. So, are there any questions? I will take 5 minutes of questions.
The defendant can bring his own witnesses?
The defendant can bring a witness, but what are they going to testify about? So they can testify that the first set of witnesses are lying.
Another question.
Yeah.
So
If
the,
the defendant
Wait, hold on, just 1 second.
If
1
the
second.
defendant brings 1 witness
Yeah.
and the other guy brings 1, is this considered to be 2?
No. So if the defendant brought a witness and the plaintiff brought a witness, the witness that the plaintiff brought can compel the defendant to make a shevuah. Exactly. The witness of the plaintiff can compel him to make a shevuah. The witness of the defendant is meaningless.
So if I bring 3 and you bring 1?
It doesn't matter. 3 is like 2.
I have a question.
3 is like 2.
Yeah.
You understand now?
No,
The
but
only
one
thing
cancels
is.
out, so 3 minus 1 is 2, no?
No, so we don't do that. That's the
No.
thing. We don't do that. Meaning a single witness is generally meaningless for the defendant. A single witness for the plaintiff works because the Torah says that in that case, that single witness can compel him to make a shevuah.
only
But,
Mamonot.
what?
Only Mamonot.
Yeah, exactly. Only in Mamon. I mean, we discussed last week, I think, that also in Isurim, but that's not really edut. Also in the case of a woman who, this is a Masechet Yevamot, in chapter 15, that the witness says, I saw the husband drown, b'mayim sheyesh lahem sof. I saw the husband, there's mayim she'en lahem sof, mayim sheyesh lahem sof. Mayim sheyesh lahem sof. It was in a small pool, he drowned in the pool of water, and I was there, he never got up. So that's one. So there are cases where a witness is ne'eman, right? That's not considered, though, a proceeding of what? But normally we don't accept the witness. So if let's say if there's a war, but I mean now, let's say there's a war, and now a married man is there, chas v'shalom, and somebody saw him die in the war. So according to halakha today, we would accept his testimony, right? Even if the person is not, even if the person was a woman, usually normally woman is not kasher le'edut under Jewish law for whatever reason. I don't want to get into that now, but the fact is they're not kasher le'edut. Even Katan says I saw him getting shot. We would accept his testimony, right? But that's generally not in dinei mamonot. You generally would need two witnesses to establish a liability. So one witness can establish a requirement to make a shevuah. Two witnesses can establish a liability. Yes? Yes, sir.
So the bridge of Shavuot has nothing to do with now and forever. That's only with the word sovereign.
Right, the derasha was that when you see the word sav, it means that law was done immediately in the midbar, because not all the laws that we have today were done in the midbar. For example, in the midbar, there was no law of shechita. If a person wanted to eat an animal, he was able to do nehira. The law of shechita happened after they entered Israel. Conversely, there were laws that applied in the midbar that didn't apply outside the midbar. Right? There were some laws that had to do with the Mishkan, the carrying of the Mishkan. Who carries the Mishkan? So there were laws that applied only in the desert. There were laws that applied only in Israel, and there were laws that applied in both. So when you see the word sav, that's an indication that this law applies in the midbar and in Eretz Yisrael. You understand? That was like a limud. Yes, sir.
Another question. Let's say you have two witnesses for the plaintiff.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily match what they're saying. For instance, let's say I have a dispute with
Yeah.
IP.
Yeah.
I say you owe me $100.
Right.
And I bring Mikey and Yoni.
Yeah.
And Mikey says, for sure, I remember they were doing a deal and it was $50.
Yeah.
And Yoni says, I saw the deal, it was $100.
Right.
But they're both agreeing on the 50.
But they both agree on the 50. So it would be up to the discretion of the Dayanim. They would have to interrogate the witnesses and establish what really happened here. Potentially. What? Right. No. So potentially they would be the Dayanim would be able to match it, but it depends. The Dayanim have to see what they're talking about.
Use their judgment.
Exactly. They would have to use their judgment and see if somebody being deceptive, maybe they didn't get their story straight, right? But it would be up to the discretion of the Dayanim during the interrogation to figure out what's going on here.
So what do you
Right.
think? Give me 50 at least?
Well, so again, the Dayanim would see. Potentially, yes. But it would be up to the... Oh, it's a real...
But usually when they say half, they want to drag it out, no?
Who?
People will say, okay, I paid him half. I paid him.
Oh, yes, correct. Meaning the
What they're trying-
reason... The reason Modeh Miksata Ta'ana has to make a shavua is because maybe he wants to drag it out. He really owes him the money,
Otherwise he wouldn't
but he's
do it.
embarrassed. He's not going to say, I owe you nothing. You know, he knows he owes the whole thing. He knows that he can't pay. So he doesn't want to say, I don't owe anything. So he says, I owe you 50. And then later on in his mind, I'm going to pay you the next 50. That's why Modeh Miksata Ta'ana Chayav L'Shavah. That's why we make him make a shavua. Right? Because the guy who says, I don't know anything, he's not gonna, you're not gonna lie and say, I don't owe you. The guy made you a loan. You're not gonna pay him a penny back? I mean, pay him something, right? A normal person, not a psychopath. A normal person will say, I owe you $10, I owe you $20. I can say, I owe you nothing. Right? So that's why the minute he said, I owe you nothing, we realize there's a possibility that he's just trying to drag it out. Yes, next question.
Is there ever,
Yeah.
is there ever a case where the defendant can bring in two witnesses to refute?
No. The refutation, as we said, would be based upon hasha or hazama, right? So, for example, edim zomemin or hasha, whatever that hasha could be. Yes, we said that. We said that the two witnesses can be rebutted by another set of two witnesses, right? I'm sorry, go
I
ahead.
was just thinking that at the end, when you wanted to say they want to use binyan av, but towards this case, but that was Mishlosh.
That's why it says yochiach. It doesn't say atya anymore. It switches. In the case of Kal V'chomer, it's saying atya. Let's learn it from this. Let's learn
Right,
it. So it says yochiach. We're bringing a different type of proof. That's why it's binyan av.
But doesn't binyan av apply to just Mishlosh say HaTorani, the Mikra?
These are laws. These are the oraita laws. The law of edechad is the oraita. The law of the person who admits liability is the oraita. Yeah. So those are both the oraita laws, and therefore we can apply the binyan av to these laws. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's an interesting question, by the way. I'm not answering that question. There are some cases of Kal V'chomer and Derabanan, so I'm reserving my judgment on that. Gentlemen, yes. We know what to say. Oh, yes, sir.
How did Rabbi define atiyah again?
Atiyah means atiyah, bring it from, meaning learn it from. Derive it from. I like that. The word derive. Derive it from. Derive the Kal V'chomer from. Right? Atiyah literally means bring it from or derive it from. It's referring to the Kal V'chomer. That's the thing.
You wanted to know what the Gemara is?
Which Gemara did you cover tonight?
Oh, Masechet Bava Mesia was Daf Gimel Amud Bet on the bottom, and then Daf Dalet. Yeah.
It's all one. It's all connected.
It's all one. It's all exactly. That's in the order. Yes, that is in the order. Gentlemen, we don't have to say the Omer tonight. Okay. Close it. Yeah.